Hi, this is Kelsey Cooper, and I'm the host for Disabled Birth Stories podcast. I hope those in the disabled community can enjoy these stories of bringing beautiful babies into the world and the journey along the way. I hope this podcast helps you feel seen, heard, empowered, and capable, no matter your journey to being a parent. I hope those who are able-bodied would listen to empathize with and support their disabled family member, friend, acquaintance, or random stranger. Thank you for listening, and feel free to email me if you have any questions or would like to be featured on the podcast at disabledbirthstories@gmail.com. Thanks for joining us today. After listening to this episode, please remember to rate and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Please also check the description for our social media links and the link to our merch store. Hi everyone, and welcome to Disabled Birth Stories. As you heard, I'm your host, Kelsey Cooper, and I just wanted to start this first intro with who I am and what this podcast will be about. I'm 30 years old. I'm married to my husband Samuel for what will be a year and a half at the end of May. We are not parents yet, and no, I'm not pregnant. So you may be wondering, why have a birth story podcast if we don't have kids? And you see, I would classify myself as a birth nerd. Birth has always been something that interests me since I was young, but looking into birth and learning about birth really kicked off when friends my age started to become mothers. It led me to fertility and birth and what that would look like for me. It started with the book Taking Charge of Your Fertility by Toni Weschler, and then that led into Facebook groups, podcasts, and so much more. Podcasts then led me to birth stories, and that got me thinking, what will my birth look like? And what kind of care would I receive? You see, both me and my husband have spastic diplegic cerebral palsy. So I went looking for research and resources and education on disability and pregnancy and birth. And I found a few things, but really there wasn't much out there. I really want this podcast to be a place for the disabled community to come together to share their stories and share resources on pregnancy and birth. There's a few resources and podcasts on the topic of disabled parenting, but I really want this podcast to be focused on fertility, birth, and the medical care that surrounds that. I hope this podcast helps you feel seen, heard, empowered, and capable, no matter your journey to being a parent. Well, that's all for today, and next week we will get into our actual first birth story. So until then, you can email me at disabledbirthstories@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, and feel free to email me if you have any questions or would like to be featured on the podcast at disabledbirthstories@gmail.com.